What would you do if you walked into a stranger's kitchen and found a funeral portrait of yourself sitting beside a half-burned candle? That's exactly what happens to Aubrey Lane, a struggling house cleaner who accepts one last-minute job inside the Montgomery mansion. She expects marble counters and a good tip. Instead, she discovers that the wealthy homeowners have been mourning her death for 3 years, and that someone used her name to steal millions, vanish in a staged fire, and pin the crime on a corpse that isn't hers. Why Aubrey, who is the puppet master, rich enough to bury a living woman on paper, yet careless enough to leave a photo where she'd find it? And how far will they go once they realize their ghost just came back to life? Stay with us, because the moment Aubrey decides to fight for her name, the twists hit harder than the thunderstorm pounding that mansion's roof. And the final reveal is pure justice. Aubrey Lane guided the Sterling Cleaner's van through the manicured maze of Wellington Pines windshield wipers, slapping at gathering rain. The address 42 Crescent Avenue belonged to the Montgomery estate, a slate-roofed castle that didn't appear on public tax maps. One last job tip, big rent paid, she told herself, parking beside a marble fountain shaped like Athena. A tall blonde woman in a silk wrap answered the door. Gardenia perfume drifted out first, followed by a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "You must be Aubrey from Sterling," she said in a crisp New England lilt. "I'm Margot Montgomery." Kitchen straight down the hall. The foyer was a cathedral of polished walnut. Oil portraits of stern ancestors tracked Aubrey's steps as she crossed a conservatory fragrant with citrus trees, then a sunken living room paneled in mahogany. Everything gleamed with the hush of secrets too wealthy to whisper. She reached the kitchen, white quartz counters, copper fixtures, a refrigerator big enough to house a mid-sized sedan, and set her caddy on the island. Rubber gloves snapped over her fingers. She looked up and her lungs stopped. Centered on the counter stood a black-framed 8x10 photo of her own face. Aubrey in a sterling polo messy bun, bright smile. Beside it, an unlit pillar candle. Beneath, a folded memorial card scripted in silver, "In loving memory of Aubrey. Lynn Lane, April 10th, 2022. Ice threaded her veins. She touched the frame. The glass was cool, real. The candle wick had been burned before wax pooled hardened. Footsteps clipped across tile. Charles Montgomery strode in silver-templed hair senator's posture, espresso cup in hand. He stopped when he saw her. The color drained from his face. "Margot," he barked without looking away. "Why is the cleaning girl alive?" Margot hurried in, cheeks ashen. I don't understand. The investigator swore she died 3 years ago. Car fire in Westbury," Aubrey's voice scraped out. "Why do you have a funeral photo of me?" Charles opened a drawer and produced a slim leather binder. He slid it to her like evidence in court. "Because every vetted record says Aubrey Lynn Lane perished April 10th, 2022, after siphoning $2 million from Montgomery Energy Holdings." Her knees buckled. She clutched the counter. "I was cleaning motel rooms that year. I've never even heard of your company." "Bank statements," Charles said, flipping pages. "Shell deeds. Your social security number on every contract." Aubrey skimmed in disbelief, forged signature Brooklyn address. She'd never lived at wire transfers to offshore accounts, all pointing to a ghost wearing her skin. The lie felt radioactive. Margot's tone softened. "We built the memorial to process the betrayal. Seeing you alive is unsettling." Unsettling. Her entire life had just been buried alive. Lightning cracked the skylight. Thunder rattled hanging copper pots. Aubrey slapped the binder shut. "Who fed you this garbage?" "Wesley Granger, property developer," Charles replied. "Said you were his point person until you disappeared with our advance. Investigators traced the crash to you. If you're truly Aubrey Lane, prove it." "Seriously, touch my pulse." "Paper beats pulse in a courtroom," he said flatly. Aubrey's gaze snagged on a phone number scribbled beside Granger's name, the stamp of a private investigation firm in Westbury, an East Haven apartment marked "Last Known Residence." Somewhere a puppet master had danced with her identity, then set it ablaze. She yanked off her gloves. "Keep your binder. I'll find Wesley Granger myself. When I return, you'll have your truth and your money." Charles's eyes narrowed. "Clear your name and we'll negotiate restitution. Disappear again and I'll bury you a second time legally." "First burial didn't stick," she shot back. Second won't either. She stuffed the memorial photo into her tote. Margot followed to the foyer, voice hushed. If you need help, call. I'm sorry. Aubrey nearly believed her until she noticed soot on Margot's manicured thumb. How many nights has she cursed my face in candlelight? The thought steeled her spine. Rain slashed sideways as Aubrey climbed into her rusty Ford Ranger. The binder glowed in the passenger seat like a slab of lies. She circled the East Haven address, noted Granger's number, and keyed the ignition. Wipers battled sheets of water while she drove away from Crescent Avenue. Somewhere, a stranger had stolen her name, loved under her face, laundered fortunes with her fingerprint, then staged her fiery demise. Whoever wrote that script assumed the heroine stayed dead. Plot twist, she thought, tightening her grip on the wheel. The ghost just bought a ticket to the third act. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If you found a memorial photo of yourself in someone's kitchen, what's the first move you'd make? Do you think Aubrey should confront Wesley Granger alone or go straight to the police? The downpour thinned to a sullen drizzle by the time Aubrey Lane reached East Haven, a town where tired vinyl siding sagged beside cracked basketball hoops. Apartment 3B on Birchwood Court looked as if it had given up on strangers long ago. She knocked heartbeat drumming her ribs. The door swung open to a woman in thrift store jeans and a sweater pilled at the elbows. Eyes auburn haunted. I'm Natalie Rhodes, she whispered, searching Aubrey's face. Are you here about Noah? Aubrey froze. Noah Lane. The name leapt straight from the Montgomery binder, her alleged husband, the con man, who wore her last name like a ski mask. Inside the apartment smelled of chamomile and grief. Wedding photos lined a thrifted bookshelf, Natalie, with a man who looked nothing like Aubrey. Yet the caption read, Noah and Natalie Lane, 2019. He had kind eyes, a shy grin. A grin that signed million-dollar thefts. Natalie poured tea with shaking hands. They told me Noah died in a truck fire last year. I still get letters from creditors, then you call, asking about him. She slid a used FedEx envelope across the table. Inside a flip phone, 3 ATM receipts, and a crumpled sticky note, MR0312, Magnolia Ard, final transfer. WG is Wesley Granger. Aubrey said, pulse spiking, and MR Montgomery restitution. She shook her head. No, Magnolia Road, Warehouse District in Westbury. Natalie's eyes filled. Was Noah a criminal? Aubrey softened. Maybe he tried to quit. That's why they torched the truck. She pocketed the phone. I need the truth, Natalie. You deserve it too. 20 minutes later, Aubrey sat in a fogged-up diner booth across from Detective Colin Mercer, a Westbury cyber crimes veteran who wore his badge like an afterthought. She slid him the flip phone. It belongs to Noah, or whoever he really was. Can you pull metadata? Mercer scrolled. 3 calls, all routed through dummy towers. But the GPS chip cheap burner lazy crook still pings. Last strong signal, an abandoned printing warehouse on Magnolia Road. He arched a brow. You planning a field trip? I'm planning to resurrect myself, Aubrey said. Granger's laundering the Montgomery money there tonight. Mercer drummed fingers on Formica. I could request a warrant, but paperwork overnight, Granger will ghost. Then I'll go inside. Her voice didn't shake, though her spine did. Mercer sighed. If I trail you off record and you get shot, my captain serves my badge on toast. Better than serving my obituary again. She stood. Either walk away or watch my 6. He stared a beat, then shoved the phone in an evidence pouch. Meet me at midnight 2 blocks north. Wear dark clothes and a prayer. Magnolia Road reeked of rust and wet cardboard. Sheet metal buildings hunched under sodium lights that flickered like dying stars. Aubrey's sneakers splashed through puddles as she crept alongside Mercer toward a side door half-welded, half-kicked open. Inside, the cavernous floor pulsed with machinery, long stilled except for one corner, where bright work lamps illuminated a folding table stacked with deed forgeries and shrink-wrapped bricks of cash. Wesley Granger, thick waistcoat, Rolex glinting, paced before a whiteboard dotted in red pushpins. 2 hired thugs counted money. A third man hunched over a laptop cloning IDs. Aubrey's phone camera rolled from the shadows of an overhead catwalk. Granger's voice echoed up the steel beams. Montgomery's PI swallowed the death story whole. By tomorrow, the Zurich accounts cleared. and Aubrey Lane is back in the grave. The words felt like acid. She kept filming Zoom record breathe. Mercer, knees bent beside her, whispered, "This is enough." But then a thug glanced up, spotting the faint red rec glow on her screen. Up there, he roared. Guns yanked free. Muzzle flashes tore the dark. Mercer yanked Aubrey backward. Bullets pinged off railings. They sprinted along the catwalk, breath ragged. A stairwell appeared down. They flew Mercer, firing a single warning shot that bought a second of chaos. On the floor, Aubrey grabbed a stray pallet. Jack rammed it into a tower of boxed flyers. Cardboard avalanched, burying two gunmen. Granger bolted for a rear exit, briefcase underarm. Aubrey chased ankles, screaming, while Mercer radioed units. Outside, rain began again, like the sky couldn't help itself. Granger's black SUV fishtailed toward the gate. Aubrey lunged, slapping a magnetic GPS tracker, Mercer's last-minute gift, onto the tailpipe. The SUV roared off tires, shredding water. Mercer skidded beside her. "Trackers live. Patrol units will intercept on Route 17. He studied her soaked hoodie, bullet-grazed sleeve. "You okay?" Aubrey's laugh cracked somewhere between relief and insanity. "Still breathing, detective. Paper doesn't beat pulse tonight." Blue lights bloomed on the horizon, backup racing after Granger. Mercer pressed a thumb drive of phone footage into an evidence bag. "With your video and tonight's arrest, the DA will kick down the Montgomery case by sunrise. You're about to own your name again." Aubrey wiped rain from her eyes. "Owning it's only half the battle. I owe Natalie the truth, and Montgomery an apology he owes me." Mercer nodded. "One fight at a time, Lane." She exhaled into the cold air, feeling more alive than any memorial could deny. Somewhere ahead lay courtroom spotlights, corporate mea culpas, maybe even freedom. But first, sleep, dry clothes, and a quiet thanks whispered to a stranger's widow who deserved better. As they walked toward flashing cruisers, Aubrey realized the fear inside her had been replaced by something sturdier: purpose. And purpose is bulletproof. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. You just watched Aubrey sprint through bullets to tag Granger's getaway. If GPS pings show Granger heading for an airport, should Aubrey race there with Mercer or trust the cops to finish the job? Comment chase if you jump back into the storm, or wait if you'd let the law do its work. Let us know why the dash-mounted tracker beeped like a metronome as Detective Colin Mercer cut across Route 17, wipers thrashing at sheets of rain. Ahead, patrol cars boxed Wesley Granger's SUV on the shoulder tires, shredded steam hissing from the hood. Aubrey Lane had insisted on coming. "I need to see it end." She'd said seatbelts cinched tight. Floodlights painted the roadside silver. Officers hauled Granger out. The briefcase tumbled bricks of cash, splitting across wet asphalt like neon dominoes. He caught sight of Aubrey and spat, "You shouldn't be alive." She stepped forward, voice steady. "Get used to disappointment." Granger's wrists clicked in cuffs. Mercer read him his rights while Aubrey opened the briefcase for evidence: photos, passport. Under the alias Noah Lane, plane ticket to Panama, the last forged deed marked with her stolen signature. The final nail. The courtroom buzzed with reporters hungry for a headline that blended inheritance money, fake deaths, and a cleaner who wouldn't stay buried. Charles and Margot Montgomery sat stiff in the front row. Natalie Rhodes beside them, twisting a tissue into confetti. Aubrey adjusted the mic on the witness stand. Ms. Lane, the prosecutor, began, "Can you recount when you first realized your identity had been stolen?" Aubrey's gaze swept the jury. "When I saw my own funeral photo on the Montgomery's kitchen island." Gasps fluttered. She described the binder of lies, the burner phone, the warehouse video, every twist like a scalpel carving away doubt. When the defense tried to paint her as an accomplice, Mercer produced the time-stamped footage, Granger bragging that Montgomery's PI swallowed the death story whole. By day's end, the jury needed just 6 hours. Guilty on fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and manslaughter for orchestrating Noah's fatal crash. Granger's face drained as the judge scheduled sentencing, 25 years to life. Outside, cameras flashed. Charles Montgomery approached Aubrey under the marble portico. "The law cleared you," he said, voice gravel. "Rough, but I need to do it in public." He turned to the microphones. "Montgomery Energy falsely accused Miss Aubrey Lane. Effective immediately, we are funding a $5 million foundation in her name to fight identity theft." Aubrey's breath caught. Redemption tasted strange, half justice, half shock. 2 months later, construction crews hammered at a derelict community center in Wellington Pines. A new banner hung out front: the Aubrey Lane Resource Hub, identity recovery and job training. Margot headed fundraising. Charles leveraged political pull for grants. Natalie volunteered as receptionist, her laugh returning like spring birdsong. Aubrey strolled the site with Mercer hard hats gleaming. "Remember when you said purpose is bulletproof?" she asked, stepping over extension cords. "Starting to believe it," he replied. Their shoulders brushed comfortably this time. Inside, a wall-size photo montage celebrated survivors of ID theft. Front and center, Aubrey holding up her rescinded death certificate, beaming like someone who'd wrestled darkness and won. One quiet Friday, an envelope arrived, no return address, just a postmark from a federal prison. Aubrey opened it at her apartment, sunlight striping the kitchen tiles. Inside, Noah Lane's watch returned as evidence and a handwritten note from Granger's former lieutenant, now awaiting trial. He wanted out. He loved Natalie. "I'm sorry we silenced him." Tears blurred the ink. Aubrey drove to East Haven and handed the watch to Natalie. "He wasn't the man either of us thought," she said, voice thick, "but parts of him were real." Natalie pressed the watch to her heart. "I'll keep the memories that were true," she whispered. Grand opening day drew a crowd of neighbors and news vans. Aubrey, in a navy blazer she'd thrift flipped, took the stage. "The night I was killed, paperwork stole my life," she began. "But paperwork can also restore it and yours." She cut the ribbon. Applause rolled like summer thunder. Inside, computers hummed, legal interns guided victims through credit freezes, and a daycare corner buzzed so parents could file forms in peace. Later, Aubrey found Mercer leaning against a doorway, tie loosened. "Got you something?" he said, handing her a small box. Inside sat a silver necklace, a simple bar engraved, "Alive and Unafraid." She laughed, slipping it on. "You think I forgot, just wanted to make it official." Their eyes lingered a moment too long, promises flickering underneath. That evening, Aubrey drove back to the Montgomery estate, the marble fortress that had first branded her a thief. The wrought iron gate opened like it was greeting family. Charles and Margot waited on the porch with iced tea and hesitant smiles. In the kitchen, the black frame photo had been replaced with a new one, Aubrey holding giant scissors at the ribbon-cutting children, cheering in the background. No candle, just a vase of wild sunflowers. "We'd like you to keep overseeing the foundation," Charles said. "And if you're willing, dinner on Thursdays. We have a lot to unlearn." Aubrey set her tote down, breathing in citrus from the conservatory. The house still whispered secrets, but now they sounded like apologies. "I can do Thursdays," she said, and felt the chapter close with a satisfying click. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. Did Aubrey's victory leave you cheering or craving one more twist? Comment 100 if the ending lifted your heart. Tell us which country you're watching from. Let's see how far Aubrey's story travels. Know someone fighting for a second chance? Share this video and pass the hope forward. Because every identity has a pulse, and every pulse deserves to be heard.